There are a couple of animation principles we haven't talked about yet. Line of action and exaggeration. The cool thing about both those principles is that they both apply to animation but also drawing, as they define the quality of a pose, not the quality of the motion. But since motion and a good animation is about a sequence of poses, then it does relate also to animation. So let's first have a look to what a line of action is into a pose. In the words of Preston Blair, former veteran animator at the Walt Disney Studio and also Metro-Goldwyn-Mayer, the line of action is an imaginary line extending through the main action of the figure. Basically, it's a line or a curve that does support the silhouette of your character and give direction to its motion or to its current pose. It's here to guide the eyes and build the whole dynamism of a pose, whether it's dynamic or not. The shape of your line of action may turn your pose in something more static. So it's not about drawing dynamism, it's about drawing directionality to make the pose clearer. Let's see a couple of examples. Line of action is about simplifying how a silhouette or a character reads. On a character, it often starts from a contacting point or a pushing point to the opposite extremity. Because the line of action is not always but often driven by the force applied into a pose. So a good line of action will translate momentum or directionality to your motion. So whenever you are building a pose for your character, the whole pose should support the line of action, or the line of action should support the whole pose. In this case, I've posed the back but also the tip of the finger of the end of my character to support the line of action. Same thing here, the way the character is posed make the line of action super obvious. So the line of action helps to read the pose and helps to read the motion. If we see the evolution of the line of action through those poses, we can see it extending as our character is jumping. There is absolutely no doubt about the orientation of the jump, so it simplified the readability or the lecture of this jumping moment or action. The line of action is not necessarily a straight line or a simple curve. It can have an S shape, clearly translating the fact that our character is gathering energy to extend on the next pose. So beyond simplifying the readability, the line of action will also define the flow of your animation. So the line of action is the best friend of the animator because it will help you to see and simplify the poses of your character through time. So when you build your animation and when you build your poses, you need to first think of the line of action, and then while posing, make sure that your pose is currently supporting this line of action. So it's always about going back and forth between what drives the pose and what the pose defines. Let's now talk a bit about one of the 12 principles of animation, which is exaggeration. For me, this is one of the most important principles of animation, especially regarding my own style of animation, which tend to be pretty cartoonish or stylized, let's say. And this whole chapter will be about exaggeration in a way. I have very few interest to super realistic animation where there is no exaggeration. Though exaggerating an animation doesn't mean it won't look realistic. A great animator will clean motion capture data and know the spots where they can push the pose or exaggerate the animation to make it more appealing and better sell the animation or the idea. Exaggeration is not about building extreme poses, but better sell an idea. Here I've just built a pose where a character is punching. I've used a reference and tried to match it, so I'm not here to tell you if this pose is good or not, but I feel like it does work and say that the character is punching. But now, what if I take this pose and I push it, or I exaggerate it? Don't worry, I will explain the whole process in the next videos, and we are going to build a bunch of different poses. What we need to understand here is that I'm taking the same ID, my character is throwing a punch, and I'm exaggerating it, meaning that I will push the pose further, both in its directionality, but also in the intention of the character. No longer punching his target, but is trying to punch through his target. If we now compare both poses, we have similarities. On both poses, our character is punching, and while the line of action on the first character is clear, by pushing the line of action forward toward the punch, we are making the idea that our character is punching way more obvious. We are exaggerating it. While it may make the pose a little less realistic in this case, it makes it way more appealing and way more readable. A good test is to show those two poses to a child. He will certainly point out the right pose as its favorite one, because it better shows the intention of the character. A big disclaimer here, no children were harmed or involved in the recording of this course. While exaggeration can be used to communicate intention, it can be also used to communicate emotions. Whether it's joy, anger, or in this case some kind of shininess and sadness, by pushing the character pose and curling him more, I'm closing the line of action. The head is leaning more, the fingers also looked more tortured. So in the end, the emotion on the right pose are more convincing, and our character will look more alive. Finally, we can also use exaggeration to improve the readability of emotion. When the character is jumping, I'm pulling his body or elongating it, so I'm exaggerating his shape to make the jump read better, especially at full speed. So we can use exaggeration to build what we call smears, that in a way simulate the motion blur of a camera and allow us to better feel the motion. To summarize, we have seen that the line of action can be applied to animation, drawing, or even photography. The line of action simplifies the readability of the pose. It conveys the directionality, momentum, and/or stability of the pose. It helps to read the flow of the animation. The animator should use the line of action to build his poses and use his poses to clearly define the line of action. Exaggeration improves the appeal and dynamism. It better communicates the ideas and the character feelings, and it can improve fast action readability.